Greetings, class. Happy Friday to you all. As promised, I have a little bonus content for you here regarding our brilliant book of essays provided courtesy of the Ludwig von Mises Institute. It is Hayek for the 21st Century, Essays in Political Economy. And so, because I wasn't able to talk about it in class, I told you that I was going to be posting a short video about it here today. Obviously, I hope that we will have time to speak more about it and to tie in the themes that he speaks about in this volume, especially as we start talking more about the industrialization of Europe and the growth of capitalism and the rise of socialism. Just right now, right in the middle of the French Revolution, it's not really a good spot for me to take a class period off. So we're probably kind of do it piecemeal. Now, for those of you who are thinking, maybe I want to jump right in, I thought, you know what, I'm going to make this a kind of bonus video where I sort of talk a little bit about what you can expect in each essay and what are the themes that are running through all of these. So the first one is the intellectuals in socialism. And this was a 1949 essay where Hayek asked why socialism remained so intellectually fashionable even after its repeated practical failures. And his answer was simple, that ideas were flowing from people like journalists and teachers and clergy and artists who were very attracted to socialism and who filtered these theories out into the public. These intellectuals weren't really original thinkers or policymakers, but their ideas shaped the moral and cultural climate in which political decisions were made. And so Hayek here is urging classical liberals to stop lamenting socialism's popularity and to start doing what socialists did so well, which is investing in education, scholarship, and moral vision, basically taking the lead, taking back the universities, which were being overwhelmed even at that time by socialism. So Mises, this also sounds a lot like what Mises says and what Rothbard says, that socialism, is going to be cultural. The triumph of socialism will be cultural before it is political. And so, yes, political power follows from intellectual trends, and if liberty is to win, it has to basically recapture the intellectual class. And so that's the first essay. And then why the worst get on top, that's the second one. This is one of the most famous chapters actually from The Road to Serfdom, which is on the shelf behind me there. This was a 1944 work that I had mentioned in class. Hayek's question is very simple. It's why do totalitarian regimes seem to be led by the worst kind of people? And his answer is that centralized power rewards ruthlessness. When authority expands, those willing to lie and coerce and suppress dissent will rise the fastest, while the most honest and independent will be weeded out. And so think of this as kind of a counterpoint to the famous line from Lord Acton that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. The idea being that, well, these good people get in these positions and then the power corrupts them. No, the idea is that there is a disgusting type of pathology that is drawn to power. Moreover, these collectivist systems require sort of a moral and intellectual uniformity. People must be made to think alike, and this breeds corruption and propaganda and intellectual death. And so democratic societies, he points out, are not immune to this. The use of knowledge in societies. This was from 1945, and this really has to deal with the socialist calculation problem, something that Mises, of course, had also written about. So he was basically arguing against socialist planners who believed that production could be scientifically managed. Hayek was arguing that knowledge of the particular circumstances of time and place is dispersed among millions of individuals, and it can't be centralized. Price is a market system that communicates information that no planner could ever possibly collect, and that each person responding to these signals, these prices, coordinates with others without even realizing it, and its spontaneous order emerges. It's not by imposed design. And so this essay is really refining Mises' earlier argument against socialist calculation by shifting the focus from data to knowledge, from what planners don't have to what cannot be known in aggregate form. And this is something that even with something like AI, there's going to be a lot of temptation for central planners who think that now they have the tools they need. The meaning of competition. So in this one, this is the fourth one, Hayek here is taking on the textbook idea of perfect competition. Many firms selling identical products. This is the ideal of capitalism. In reality, he argues, true competition is a dynamic process of discovery in which entrepreneurs find new ways to serve customers, cut costs, and innovate. Perfect competition, by contrast, sort of assumes away all the uncertainty and creativity that make real markets work. This idea really influences later Austrian economists like Kirchner, and is kind of building on Schumpeter's idea of creative destruction. So real competition is never static. It's always dynamic. It's always unfolding. Number 5 is the non sequitur of the dependence effect, and this is written in response to a very popular progressive liberal socialist type, John Kenneth Galbraith. His claim that advertising, quote, creates artificial wants. Hayek argues that really most human wants are socially conditioned to some extent. The fact that modern consumers are influenced by others' innovations doesn't make their preferences less valid. What matters is voluntary choice. Attempts to declare some desires authentic and others manufactured simply empowers elites to decide what people should want. Hayek defends consumer sovereignty here and warns that moralizing about consumption easily becomes a justification for paternalism on the part of the government, which of course is staffed by these socialist intellectuals who want power. So there's a whole, this is the theme that's running through this book. The Pretense of Knowledge, this actually is drawn from his 1974 Nobel Prize lecture. Actually, there was a Nobel Prize that was just awarded. This is slightly different, but... So this is a very scathing critique of modern economics. Remember, he's writing in 1974 at this point. Hayek warns that social scientists often imitate the methods of physics, mistaking mathematical precision for genuine understanding. And he calls this the pretense of knowledge. Because human societies are complex systems of interdependent plans, central planners and economists cannot predict outcomes with the certainty that physical scientists can. Hayek's real humility before the complexity of human life anticipates fields like chaos theory, and it reinforces his broader argument that economic order arises spontaneously and not from design. Then there's the final one, which is choice and currency. And here, if you're interested in this stuff, you can read up on the free banking debates between people like Rothbard and Selgin. Rothbard has, of course, passed away, but Selgin is still alive. In this 1976 essay, Hayek is proposing that individuals should be free to choose which currency to use, whether government issued or privately created. Just as competition disciplines producers of goods, it would also discipline issuers of money. If people could abandon inflating national currencies in favor of stable alternatives, governments would lose their monopoly over money and thus their ability to quietly tax citizens through inflation. Rothbard agreed that inflation was a state-created evil, but he disagreed on the remedy. He wanted a full gold standard, while Hayek envisioned a competition between private monies. And then later, Selgin's followers built on Hayek's model to advocate a theory of free banking where private banks issued competing banknotes backed by assets. So, taken together, these essays really are tracing a single intellectual thread, that knowledge, freedom, and moral responsibility are inseparable. And Hayek's challenge, very urgent today, is that every attempt to centralize control, whether in economics or politics or morality, stems from a pretense of knowledge. His work is really not just about economic theory then, but it's a defense of human dignity and the human condition, that we are free precisely because we cannot be controlled or perfectly understood by others. So I hope this sparked your interest in diving into this. I will have much more to say on this topic, especially when it comes to Hayek's great Capitalism and the Historians in the context of the industrialization of England, which we'll really be tackling in coming weeks. Thanks so much and have a great weekend. Go Tigers.